think it's been since August. Hello. I think we should be good to go.
Hello.
Welcome to our Anne discussion, everybody. Got to figure out how to use this again here. Let us know if you are here and you can hear us.
There's always a little bit of a lag after you go live.
I know. The start. So, Tiffany, when did you finish the book?
I finished it yesterday, in true Tiffany form. I finished it the day before the live. But I've been reading it actually all month. I was kind of procrastinating because I knew I was going to cry at the end.
Yes.
So I was kind of holding off. And so I waited till last night because I was reading it at my daughter's piano lesson and I'm like, I refuse to cry here in public and weep at this table right now. I will wait till I go home.
Nice. Okay, why don't we start? You guys can introduce yourselves. And I'm curious to know how many times you guys and those watching have read the book. Cheryl, why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel if you want.
Okay, I'm Cheryl, and my channel is Candlewick Library, and I mostly talk about books. I'm kind of random, though. I talk about a lot of things, books, life, homeschooling, all of it. And Anne of Green Gables, how many times have I read it? I don't even know. The first time I read it, I was 8 years old, and I probably read it at least once a year until I was an adult. And then I've read it probably 5, 6 more times in the last 20 years. So probably at least 20, 25 times in my life.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Book, so yeah.
That's amazing.
That's very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Tiffany. My channel name is Beautiful Minutia, and I too have a channel that is mostly about reading, but sometimes other things, sometimes cozy gaming, sometimes homeschooling, sometimes just whatever, but mostly reading. And I read a lot of classics. So I read Anne as a child a couple of times, but I hadn't reread it as an adult until I read it to my daughter about 3 years ago and introduced her to Anne. So the last time I read it was about 3 years ago. So I've probably read it 4 or 5 times in my life, but I'm not exactly sure how many.
You guys are beating me. I've only read it 3 times.
And you're
still good.
And as a Canadian, I'm just so embarrassed that I was probably 30 something, but by the time I read it for the first time, so that's kind of terrible.
You're not the only one who's saying it's your first time in the comments.
Yes.
Or there are people saying it's their first time.
Yeah. So. I'm not the last person to have read it, but it felt like a little bit of an embarrassment, that's for sure. Yeah. We've got some second time, first time, second time.
Was it, what is the word I'm looking for? Emphasized a lot in Canada? Do you guys talk about it as much as we would think you would?
No.
Okay.
I don't, everyone knows, but I think it's more the movie.
Okay. Okay.
I don't remember anyone talking about the book. I knew it existed, but I don't remember anyone ever talking about it when I was younger. But I've watched the movie.
I watched the movie as a child more than I read the book, and I watched the movie first, the Megan and Follows version.
Yeah,
I watched it first too.
Yeah, once we get to the later books, like after Anne of the Islands, I haven't reread any of those since I was a child, like 12 years old. I've only reread the first 3 as an adult.
Okay. So. There's a few people that are like the 5+ have read it that many times, 5+.
No one's beating Cheryl, though, I don't think.
It's kind of pathetic for me, probably.
No, amazing. We all admire you for it.
Yeah.
I didn't have that many books as a child that I owned, so.
I thought you were going to say I didn't have that many friends.
You just had the girl and the window pane that you talked to.
Yes. Well, I probably did.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
I love how many first timers are in the comments here.
There's a lot. That's
That
great.
makes me so happy to introduce so many people to Anne.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I totally grew up watching the Megan Follows Anne of Green Gables. And I was surprised as I was reading this how like much they took like full paragraphs from the book in the movie. I
Yeah.
didn't clue into that the other times that I've read it because Reka and I just rewatched it in the fall. And yeah, I really liked it. Some people are talking about how they love Anne with an E. I didn't get very far in that just because I'm terrible at watching things, honestly. I loved the cinematography is really gorgeous. Like the video footage, love that.
I couldn't do it. Sorry to all of you that love it. I hated it.
Aw, I didn't even try it, so.
I was a little bit into it and I just felt like they changed too much of the actual characters' personalities.
Yeah, I only watched like a few episodes when it was first coming out and I don't remember, but I like this.
I liked Marilla. Marilla I liked.
Anne reminds me of Pippi Longstocking and Amelia Bedelia. I can see those similarities there.
I see that too.
When Reka and I watched Anne of Green Gables in the fall, we asked if anyone else in the family wanted to watch, and Jared's like, "Can I not?" Because his mom and sisters made him sit through the movie so many times as a kid. He's probably watched it more than I have.
That's so funny. I can see him. That makes sense. You know, that's fair.
The one thing with Anne with an E, I heard that the whole Matthew part is pretty dark.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they had him contemplate suicide, so.
Wow.
I feel like that's not his character.
I don't get that either from him. Like, he's shy and awkward around other people, but that doesn't mean depression and suicidal tendencies.
Yeah.
Those aren't the same thing.
And, like, if anything, I would say maybe before Anne came. Like, we don't really know what he was all like then other than shy. But I feel like Anne was, like, his reason to live. Like, he was all about her. We'll talk about him. I got lots of Matthew things to say this time around, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I love him.
Oh, we got a Dexter sighting here.
There's going to be a lot of them. He goes back and forth on these steps behind me, my yellow lab. I have a lot of animals. I have 4 cats and 2 dogs, and a husband and a child. So you will probably see all of them walk through at some point.
I don't have any. We need some.
We have people just drop them off. Like, they just ditch them right in front of our house. That's how we've ended up with 2 of them. So.
Wow. Okay, let's start by just talking about Anne. I want to hear your thoughts on her as a character. We can talk a bit about her growth. I don't know, just general Anne thoughts to begin with. I'll say the thing that jumped out at me the most in the beginning of the book, and I don't remember where, I have way too many tabs, which is great, except to try to find something. It's like, well, I know I tabbed it somewhere. It was early on in the book, page 18 in my edition, and I was like, Anne has ADHD. Like, she is just all over the place, talking nonstop. That really cracked me up.
When I read this out loud to my daughter, I would read her paragraphs as fast as I could because I felt like that's how she talked, like that she barely came up for air when she was speaking.
I think that's why I loved it so much as a child, because I was like that. And I'm a very introverted person, but I'm very talkative. And as a child, I was just like her, from one subject to another and all of it. So, and very imaginative.
She reminds me so much of my daughter. My daughter's always, like, even as like a little tiny child, was always coming up with the most like elaborate games of pretend. Like, there were so many things that she was doing. And her best friend is a Diana, who is less imaginative, but is loyal fiercely and would do anything for her and plays along with any scheme that she has. And so my daughter and her best friend are Anne and Diana. And so it's really fun to read it because it just reminds me so much of her, except she doesn't really have a temper like Anne does.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I can relate to Anne. Definitely as a child. My kindergarten report card said Chantel talks too much.
Mine did too in kindergarten. That's so funny.
I was there to socialize, but also very introverted, but in a class in a very small town where I knew everybody, so I wasn't shy or anything. And yeah, definitely talked a lot. Have a little bit of troll here. Thanks, Tiffany, for bringing your troll
my
along.
husband. Yes, he follows me everywhere I go. He shows up. I don't know how he finds me, but he does.
Tiffany, did your daughter see herself in Anne when you were reading it to her?
Yes, absolutely. She's like, I don't really get mad like she does or hold a grudge, but because I read it to her when she was, I think she was 8. And she was like, oh, that's what I do. I rename places and I make up all these elaborate things. And so it was just like her. So it was really sweet.
Yeah, when she talks about how she spent all night just agonizing over trying to come up with the perfect name for places. I used to do that too, and I still do. With like naming our house, I did that. I thought about it for weeks and could hardly think of anything else. And it was such a stupid thing that nobody even knows. Like, we don't have a sign outside or anything, but I had to do it. And I love that about Anne.
Yeah, my daughter's named all of our cars, and it's been a process for every single one of them. There's been a reason why they all have the names that they do.
That's awesome.
I love Anne's positivity too. That's actually my favorite thing about Anne, even though she's funny and she's imaginative and she loves nature and I love all those things about her, but her positivity is my favorite thing about her, that when like life knocks her down, she says things like, isn't it wonderful that tomorrow is a day with no mistakes in it? Or yes, all these mistakes are great because I learn from them. And I haven't made the same mistake twice. Or even at the end with the bend in the road.
Yeah.
I thought I knew where I was going, and now there's a bend in a road, and I can't see where I'm going, but I'm choosing to believe that the best things are just around the bend. And I'm like, man, I want to be more like Anne.
Totally. There's a lot of people here that can relate to Anne. I like this. And we've got loving her heart for beauty and wonder. Yes, her optimism, and like besides Gilbert, she is so forgiving of everyone. Even Rachel Lynde, like she never loves Rachel, like she doesn't, but she gets over her initial hatred of her and is very kind to her. Even when people are saying kind of, and I know it was more acceptable then for people to be like, oh, you're an orphan, so you are like a lesser human. But she's still kind when people are saying that stuff about her.
Yeah.
She
even Josie Pye, it takes her till the end of the book before she gives up. She
That's
won't
what
be
I was going to say. Is Josie Pye. She tried so hard to be friends with her.
Yes. Yeah. That was good.
Oh, I love it.
Charlene says she would have liked Anne more as a child. Love her imagination and her way of viewing things. I did enjoy reading about her more as she got older and began to mellow out. Yes.
That's fair.
I like her in here. She's fun. Love her optimism. But I feel like in the next few books, that's when I really love her.
Yeah. She grows as a human. I know a lot of people who think she's kind of annoying in the first book.
Yes.
Probably because they don't enjoy being around people who talk nonstop. But she does mellow, like Charlie is saying.
Yeah. I love this. I think it was Anne's self-protection and imagination that helped her to look at life in better ways than what she went through before coming to Green Gables.
Yeah, her imagination was a saving grace for her.
How she respected Marilla and wanted to please her. It's actually kind of interesting that Anne took to Marilla as much as she did, with Marilla having such a shell. like
Yeah.
an outer hard shell. Like she didn't want Anne to see, or anyone to see, how much she loved Anne.
Mhm.
Oh man, this is funny. My oldest daughter names her fingers and toes.
My daughter didn't go that far.
Yeah, me either. That's great.
That's amazing. Does
like-
that mean she had 20 names? I have to know. Please tell me. And did she keep them the same? Did she remember them? Because that would be even more.
That is
Which
so
finger
funny.
had which name?
I like Catherine here. Growing up, I desperately wanted to be Anne when I'm more of a Diana.
We need Dianas, Catherine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. The world wouldn't function if everyone was an Anne. We
Yeah,
would get
so true.
nothing done.
I feel like the book really like glorifies the Anne personality, but the loyalty and like steadfastness of Diana, that is harder, I think, than being flighty like Anne.
Yeah, for sure.
I saw someone asked a while ago, and now I won't be able to find the comment. Here. Oh, it's Chrissy. What was your favorite scene from the book?
I don't know how I could choose.
Yeah, that's hard.
Because there are moments that I love because they're hilarious. Like I love when Anne dyes her hair green. And I love the like Lady on the Lake scene where she gets rescued by Gilbert. And so there are scenes I love because they're so funny. But I also love the scene where like Matthew makes sure she has her puffed sleeves. And the scene like where Matthew towards the end where Matthew like she's like, I wish I had been a boy because I could have helped you. And he's like, I never wanted anything but you. You're my girl. Like so there are like I have so many favorites.
All my little hearts are Matthew scenes. So anything with Matthew in it is a winner.
I love all the well now. Every sentence starts with well now.
Yeah.
Even though I know this takes place in Canada, I've got like a southern drawl in my head. Well now.
Well, I guess, and I also love the scene where she finally openly forgives Gilbert.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's instantly like, we're gonna be best of pals. You know, like just...
And
It's
the
also
sacrifice he made
his
for her.
character too, because he's so forgiving.
Yeah.
And long suffering.
Yeah.
Yes, and Tiffany, you're right. The sacrifice, that was huge.
Yeah.
Then he has to, it would cost him financially to do so.
Yeah. And I love the scene at the end too where Marilla finally tells Anne how much she loves her.
Yeah.
Like verbally.
Yeah. I actually love the opening scene too. Just how she describes the stream even, you know, changing its ways because of Rachel Lynde. And as she describes and introduces new characters, she's so good at just in one sentence making you know exactly what a person is like.
You know Rachel Lynde immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Let's see some of their favorites here. Gilbert and the Slate. Yes.
For sure, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to bring my illustrated version up here. I shared on Instagram the image of that scene from my illustrated version. I love it. Oh, here's an idea. Someone should write a retelling from Diana's perspective.
Mm.
That would be interesting.
It would.
Baking, dyeing hair, getting Diana drunk. That's right. Yeah.
I was reading off some of the chapter titles to my daughter as I was rereading it, and she was laughing because she knew what they all meant. Like Anne's confession that she dropped the brooch in the lake, even though she didn't, you know.
Yes. But she was told if she confessed, she could go to the picnic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there was... Oh, I lost my spot again. So many... Like, it took me so long to read it because I was writing so many notes and underlining and... Yeah. Yeah, at the beginning of A Tempest in the School Teapot, I wrote, I love her enthusiasm. What a splendid day, said Anne, drawing a long breath. Isn't it good to be alive? Isn't it good just to be alive on a day like this? I pity the people who aren't born yet for missing it. They may have good days, of course, but they can never have this one.
I love her.
So optimistic.
I know. Yes.
My favorite scenes are when Anne pulls people out of their shell. Matthew, Marilla, yeah.
And Diana's aunt as well. She pulls her
yeah.
out of her shell too.
Yes. Yes. I
And
really
I always
like.
love whenever you see the little hints of Marilla's sense of humor throughout, but that she tries so hard to not let anyone know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. She tries not to laugh and be
Yeah.
strange.
Puffed sleeves dress. Okay, so here the toes and the fingers. She's 16 now, so she's forgotten a few fingers and toe names. They're all boy names too.
I love it. So she did know them all. They all had individual names and she remembered each name for each finger and toe. That is incredible.
That's so funny.
Oh,
Taking
yes.
walking the ridgepole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% would have done it.
I love Ruby Gillis in that scene and like the Elaine scene because Ruby Gillis just like loses her ever loving mind. Like she cannot handle when anything happens. Like
That's so
she's the
true.
one that falls apart and goes into
Mhm.
hysterics every single
Mhm.
time. And it's so funny to me.
Yeah. Oh, apparently there is a book a fan wrote called Diana
Mm.
of Orchard Slope from Diana's perspective.
Oh.
I'm going to quickly write that down because I won't remember. Gonna look that up. Is it any good?
Yeah, Katie didn't say she'd read it.
No. Let's see. So many favorite scenes. Getting Diana drunk. Marilla's humor is a favorite. Oh yeah. Okay, Catherine knows about it too, but she's never read it. We don't know. One of my favorite scenes is the haunted woods.
Yeah.
I love that scene so much.
I feel like that is so like quintessential kid thing though. Like just freak yourself out so bad, and then you can't even walk through the woods.
Over something that you made up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it seems like before that they could walk through it just fine.
Yep.
So
Okay, well, if we were just talking about Diana, let's talk a little bit about Diana then. We mentioned that she's loyal. So you guys, how would you put yourselves? Cheryl, you're with Anne?
yeah.
Tiffany, where are you?
I was definitely more of an Anne as a kid, but I would say I'm more of a Diana as an adult, where I'm like more practical and more loyal.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very imaginative as a child, so I was always bringing my friends along on whatever I had cooked up, and writing stories constantly.
Yeah, I would definitely. I grew up on a farm that was like out in the middle of nowhere, so I didn't live by anyone my age, and so I used my I read a lot of books, and I just used my imagination and entertained myself. So I'd be like Anne without any people around, the hermit version of Anne.
Are you an only child, Chantal? No, okay.
But my brother's 7 years younger than me.
Okay.
And it's just the two of us, so.
Okay.
Something that stuck out to me about Diana this time, that even with all of the times I've read it, I did not remember that she was a bookworm.
Yeah, I didn't remember that either. So she kind of fed some of Anne's imagination by giving her good books too, on top of everything.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me.
Yeah, since it always talks about her not having an imagination, for some reason those two things go together for me. But then I realized, okay, it's just that she doesn't make up her own stories, but she likes to read them.
What killed me when I was reading their story club, and then she's talking about Diana puts too many murders into hers. She says most of the time she doesn't know what to do with the people, so she kills them off to get rid of them. Oh, I just died laughing or reading that part. Oh man.
Oh, that's so funny.
I feel like that's not Diana. Like, I know you're only killing a fictitious character, but I can't see her doing it.
She seems too sweet, doesn't she?
Yeah.
My oldest daughter is like that. She's so quiet. And then she writes murder mysteries and stuff too. So
So it's the quiet ones we got to worry about. Is
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
Apparently.
It's those Dianas. Well, Lisa said
quiet
she's
ones have murder on the brain.
Cheryl's like an Anne. The quiet girl who's friends with the extrovert. Yeah. You're a Diana with Anne's imagination. That's good. Like this, not very much like Diana or Anne. I'm basically Marilla.
Honestly, Marilla's amazing.
Yep.
Another Diana.
It's a good mix.
Mm-hmm.
How many authors are like Diana? Interesting
I like
question.
quite a few, honestly.
High school and college, I referred to myself as loyal to a fault. Loyal to people who had been my friends even if they hadn't been nice to me or weren't talking to me. Oh, yeah. And that's such a hard season where, at least for me, that was like a cycle. You know, there's always someone that you're not talking to or isn't talking to you.
Yeah.
Mixture. I like that there's like a fairly even I'm an Anne, I'm a Diana,
Yeah.
and some Marillas in there.
Do we have any Matthews?
Matthew and Diana probably have a lot in common, honestly.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that like Anne is like Diana is a kindred spirit, but they're so different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like they even really necessarily have a ton of the same interests. They just love each other so much immediately that they're able to just enjoy whatever they're doing together. But there's so many people where Anne's like, oh, this person's a kindred spirit because she says it about like Mrs. Allen too, and Diana's aunt. But none of those people have a personality that's like Anne's, but yet they're kindred spirits. So I just thought that was interesting.
That is true.
They balance Anne out, honestly.
Yeah.
I think you have to. I hardly ever had any friends that were like me either.
Mm.
If you have two people that talk too much and have too much of an imagination,
That's true.
what you do.
The talkers want the quiet friends so that they can talk and someone can listen. And the quiet people want the talkative friends so they don't have to say anything.
So true.
There we go. Every quiet introvert needs an outgoing crazy friend.
I saw a meme one time that said something along the lines of like, you know, an extrovert adopts a quiet introvert and then like brings them out into the world. Otherwise they just stay home.
Nice.
That's me as an adult now. I need people that will force me to do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've become more of a homebody the older I've gotten.
When I hear kindred spirits in other books or every day, it just gives me a smile and warm fuzzy yes.
Yeah, me too.
I love how that is just a fairly common phrase now.
Me too. I see a lot of people saying that they feel like they're like Anne, but they're an introvert.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because though Anne is outgoing, I don't know if she's truly an extrovert because she needs to be alone in nature to refuel and to be with her imagination. So even though she's social, that doesn't mean that like she gets her energy from being around people. I'm not sure which one she really is, but I'm just saying you could make an argument really either way.
Yeah.
That
well, and when you see her grow up too.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like I am totally an introvert, but get me with some people that I'm comfortable with and I will talk nonstop. So, oh, here we go. Rachel Lind. We haven't had a Rachel Lind pop out.
So you've got all the gossip, if it. Is that what you're saying? You know what's going on with everybody?
INFJ, is that pegging Anne here?
I would guess so.
That's what I am, an INFJ.
Me too.
That's funny. I think I'm an ISFJ. I'm close.
Okay. Who should we talk about next? Oh, let's go Marilla. There was a little bit of Marilla. Any thoughts on her?
I think something that I really appreciate about book Marilla that's hard to convey in a adaptation is we see Marilla's inner thoughts and how much she's just falling in love with Anne. I think it says by the point Anne had been there for like 3 weeks, Marilla already can't remember Green Gables without her because it's like she belongs there. But I feel like because she's so stone-faced to Anne and strict with her most of the time, in a lot of adaptations, it takes a lot longer for us to see how much she's warming to Anne, but we see almost immediately how attached she gets to Anne. And that's something I love about the book, is you can see the inner feelings.
Yeah.
Totally.
I felt like I could relate to her as a mom when it seems like she is a lot of the times going against her own feelings with Anne because she feels like she is supposed to tell her to do something or expect her to do something. And I don't know if you guys are this way, if other moms are this way, but I know I always have been, where I'll think something, but, oh, I need to make my kids do this because that's the societal norm, or, I don't know.
Or just what should be done.
Yeah. What's appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Trying not to laugh at things you're supposed to scold your children for. We've all been there. Where we have to leave the room and laugh and then come back with the disciplinary action later.
Yeah. And she probably felt a lot of pressure too, because so many people didn't think that she had it in her to raise a daughter.
Yeah.
I really love when there's a few times in the book where Rachel Lynde starts, kind of attacking Anne a little bit, and Marilla, she kind of like gets a little straighter and she stands up for Anne a few times.
Her little mama bear.
Yeah. Even though she was totally thinking what Rachel Lynde said, the second Rachel Lynde said it, she's like, I gotta fight the other side.
Yeah.
I also love that with Marilla, in a book that's this old, you don't usually get a positive chronic illness representation. But you do get that for Marilla with her chronic headaches and then her vision at the end of the book. So it's not often that you get that. But like, she's someone who's so like strong, and yet like there's so many times where she has to like lay down because she's had a headache all day and stuff like that. So it's interesting.
Which is interesting for the time too, because for people to even admit that anything's wrong, like that, to actually lie down. Yeah, that's good. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and I really felt it when she said that the doctor tells her that she can't read or sew. And Anne says, well, then you have hope. And she's like, yeah, but what is my life going to be if I can't read and sew and do those things? Because I think that's how I would feel in that situation.
Yeah, everything that you would normally do, now you can't do any of it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I love how the book made Marilla so much softer than I realized she would be. Yeah. It's good. Love her sense of humor, strong faith. Yeah.
She reins her in when she needs to be reined in, but she gives her free rein to be imaginative at times too. I love it.
Really, she and Matthew were exactly what Anne needed.
Absolutely.
If
and
they
Anne
had
was
people
what they
that
needed.
If they were like, if had people that were like Anne, she might have never learned and matured.
Yeah.
I like this one. I loved when Marilla laughed at Anne going on about hating Diana's husband. It's like you're 13 or whatever at the time. And
yeah, that was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah, Mama Bear mode. Lisa says, as an adoptive mom of older kids at adoption, Montgomery really did a great job of conveying the difficulties involved with Anne, just not knowing how to do normal, everyday, commonplace things.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And then Marilla struggling a bit, not knowing exactly how to deal with it. That's a really good point.
Yeah, that Anne didn't even know how to pray at all. And I love that like Marilla makes the connection that it was because like no one really loved Anne enough to care to teach her things about the Lord. She made that connection that people weren't acting like Christ to Anne. And that's why Anne knew nothing about him. I love it too. Where she says she just wants to go out in a field and feel of prayer.
I love that.
Me
That's
too,
how I feel about prayer, and just, I don't know.
Yeah. And then she talks about Mr. Bell, the Sunday school superintendent, and
Mhm.
and she's like, he prays, but I feel like he doesn't mean it. Like
Yeah.
he just says it. And I was like, oh, ouch. But yeah, we all know those people.
Yeah. Okay, we have barely talked about Gilbert.
That's shocking. But yeah, we haven't.
Let's spend a little bit of time on him here. He starts things out pretty much on Anne's bad side from the very first day.
Yeah.
And spends the whole rest of the book trying to win her back.
Which is, okay, so she was 11 at the start of the book
Mm-hmm.
and 16 at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So 5 years of the cold shoulder.
For Gilbert.
I didn't do the math before. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And he then instantly, as soon as she's like, let's be friends, he's like, great, we're gonna be great friends.
Yeah.
No, like, well, you just shunned me for 5 years. Let me think about it or anything. He just
I love him. I tell Claire every time, I'm like, find you a Gilbert.
Yeah.
For real. Because they exist. And find them. Don't settle for less than a Gilbert Blythe.
Yeah.
He was probably the only bookish crush I had as a child. The only one. Like I was never big into literary crushes, but I was just like, but Gilbert made me swoon every time.
I don't know if he was my only, but I can't think of anybody else that stands out as one. Him in the book and in the movie. I loved Jonathan Crombie.
Yes, he was perfect. That whole movie was perfectly cast, honestly.
Did you know that they only, I searched it when we were watching it, they filmed it in 6 weeks. I feel
Really?
like
Wow.
Anne looks like she ages through the, like, they do a really good job
Yeah.
for the time to
To cover like 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like she looks like she ages.
Yeah, she does.
Gilbert made a big mistake and regretted it ever since. Yes.
He was just doing what he was doing to every other girl in that school, and no one had ever given him pushback because they thought he was cute.
Yeah, because he was a cute guy.
Because he was handsome. Yeah. Which was probably, that part was probably good for him.
Mm-hmm.
It probably was. It was good for him to be taken down a peg. But it's like that whole like boys tease girls that they think are cute. You know?
Felt
I
bad
did
for him.
Yeah.
I did too. He tried so hard for so long. Someone else mentions the apple he left on her desk.
Yeah.
And she just like
drops
it away. She's like, nope. And how she won't even mention his name even to like Marilla or Diana. She's like, Gil, the other people in school.
Yeah. But she thought about him a lot because his name would come out when she wasn't trying to mention him.
Yeah.
Oh. Marilla sadly did the same thing with Gilbert's father. It's true.
Isn't that interesting? Because it's not a biological child making the same mistake the mother did, even though Marilla's not technically her mother, like truly, like biologically, but yet this like history repeating itself. Just interesting that she held a big long grudge too.
Yeah.
I'm glad Anne learned from Marilla's mistake before it was too late.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, if she hadn't disliked Gilbert so much, would she have done as well in school? Because it was kind of all about beating him.
Yeah.
He was the only other older kid in the kind of younger grade when she first started school. And they were neck and neck, and then it just kept going. Even her first year of Queens there, just fighting for top spot.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I feel like her imagination might have caused her to wander and not focus on school as much as she did if it hadn't been for the competition aspect. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
It cracked me up how many times I didn't realize that there was a major theme of her hating geometry through the entire book.
That is so relatable to me because I don't like math, but I never had a problem understanding algebra. Geometry, forget about it. My brain was like, absolutely not. What is this? Like, I never understood it. I don't know why.
Yeah, she kept saying I'm a dunce in geometry. That same
And I was
phrase.
like, same girl, same.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that too this time.
Like as someone else said, they competed too.
I had a boy I competed with in school, and my grades were so good that year as a result. I can kind of relate, but I dated him and then married him. But when we were dating, we would do homework together, so my grades totally raised.
It's so funny.
So
Oh, I feel so much better. There's so many geometry haters in these comments right now. Thank you all. I find that people tend to be one or the other. Like they really understand geometry and struggle with algebra, or they can understand algebra fine, but geometry is like absolutely not. Like it must be different parts of the brain.
I was a dunce in both.
Fair. I didn't like either of them, but geometry made me cry way more than algebra did.
Yeah, I think me too.
That's funny. Okay, we've got another main character we need to spend some time on here. Matthew.
My heart.
This is one place where I was like, the movie, he didn't get enough screen time. Like,
no,
that's where the movie failed. As I was reading the book, I'm like, but he was in there so much more. She should have been there.
Yeah.
I wonder every time I read this because like Matthew is probably my favorite character. Like he just tugs at my heartstrings more than anybody. Like I just love him. Like his like softness and quietness, but like this he's also like Diana with like this steadiness that like he brings to everyone. He keeps everyone even. He loves so faithfully. And I always am like, what would have happened if he hadn't died? What would the other books have looked like? What would Anne's education have looked like? What would Marilla struggling now with her eyesight, what would that have looked like? Like, what would the future have looked like if Matthew had been there? Like, I wonder that every time. It's so painful. Yeah. I cried during that chapter. Every time.
You get to the title page and just, no, I don't want to.
I know. Yeah.
That's why I was waiting. I was like, I'm savoring it, but also I'm dreading the end.
Yeah, as soon as I got to that chapter title, I was like, oh, okay, deep breath. We can do this.
Well, it starts hitting you at the end of the chapter before it, because that's the scene where he says, I'm glad you were a girl.
Yeah.
You're my girl. I wanted no one other than you. And you're already crying because you're like, I know it's coming. I'm so glad he told her before he died, but my gosh.
Yes.
That's like
he was exactly who Anne needed her whole life.
Yes.
That like unconditional love right off the bat.
Yeah, well, and like it was the very first day when Marilla was like, she's got to go, you know, she's not a boy, she's not useful for us. What good would she be to us? And he says, we might be some good to her.
Yes.
So it just breaks my heart right off the bat. Yeah. In a good way.
I just love him.
He's so gentle, and yeah, every scene that he's in, I just love him.
And even though like Anne needed someone like Marilla to have kind of like a strong hand, so Marilla didn't just like, or so Anne didn't just go all over the place all the time, Matthew was able to see things Anne needed that Marilla couldn't see. He had this insight where every time he quote unquote stuck his oar in, it was exactly what Anne needed, and Marilla either wouldn't let herself give into that, or she didn't even realize Anne needed it.
Yeah.
So they were the perfect pair, like both sides, because if it had just been Matthew, he probably would have indulged her to no end. And she would not have been a functional adult or had any friends, probably. But that like she needed like the sternness of Marilla with the softness of Matthew. She needed both.
Totally.
Even when she's talking about the growth that she's had, and she talks about how she's not as into the romance of life as she used to be, and he tells her, don't get rid of all of it, Anne.
Yeah.
keep a little bit of that romance. It's just, I think that they both work together to keep her grounded, but also true to herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll forever remember him as making sure she had puffed sleeves.
Yes. And the strand of pearls.
Yes, that were better than any diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Back to Marilla here. I haven't read Marilla of Green Gables. I keep meaning to, but apparently
I actually liked it.
You did?
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I usually don't like anything that takes other people's characters and changes their story or adds to it. I don't know why, but that's a weird thing of mine that I don't.
Mine too.
Like. But I really liked that one. But I've heard other people that did not. So I'm not sure if it was just the mood I was in when I read it, but I felt like it was a really interesting story.
I'd like to give it a try at some point. Who wants to marry Matthew?
Gilbert or Matthew. Either are acceptable. Matthew is totally acceptable. I love him.
Oh, poor Tammy. She didn't remember what happened to Matthew.
Oh.
It's just like, you don't think that that's what's going to happen, honestly. Even though there's foreshadowing, it talks about how he's not doing well, and Anne comes back from Queens and even asks. Like, you don't think that that's how the book's going to end. Because it's been such an optimistic book,
Mm-hmm.
I literally couldn't remember if it was this book or the next one. Like, I knew it was coming. But then as he was getting sicker, I was like, oh no, it is coming.
And then you've got a chapter title that's like the Reaper's name is Death or something like that. And you're like, well, okay.
Here we go. Literally went and made dinner after seeing that chapter title. Yep.
When I read it out loud to my daughter, because I'll cry even more during a read aloud than I would normally, because I'm trying to like put on a brave face, basically. And I read the chapter title and I was already crying, and Claire looked at me and she was like, oh no. That was the first book I read aloud to her that she cried to. She hadn't before that point.
I think Marilla and Anne became closer because he died. So that is true.
Absolutely. That's when Marilla actually tells Anne how she truly feels. And I love how Anne, like, Diana offers to stay with Anne and Anne tells her no, but she wants Marilla to stay with her because she said Diana wasn't close enough to my heart to share this grief, and you do. And I was like, I cried a lot during that chapter.
Oh.
Okay, well, Anne was one of those people.
Okay, I thought so. When I said some people don't, I was pretty sure Anne had said she didn't like it. That's funny.
Oh yeah, Marilla's reaction when Matthew died. That's foreshadowing.
It was.
Well, you think of that, what he is to Anne, you know that he would have been that to Marilla their whole lives.
Yes.
And to be a single brother and sister living together like that, they would have had to have been so close.
Yeah. And this would have been a time period where also Marilla living on her own as a single woman would be very difficult to make ends meet, because she can't work the same way that he can. She doesn't have the same opportunities or rights that Matthew did. So that adds a whole nother layer to, like, how do you go on from here,
Yeah. Lost my train of thought. It'll come back. Maybe. Oh, this is good. I felt the greatness of God's love for me in the character of Matthew.
That is good.
Which is interesting because he doesn't talk about faith as much as Marilla or Anne does. And yet he has, like, all the actions of God's love without saying it even, It's so beautiful.
I feel like for Marilla, it comes out as a duty. It's something she needs to do, has to do. Like, I don't think that's completely how she feels, but that's kind of how it comes out.
Yeah.
And whereas Matthew lives it.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of people. How they express love is going to look different. Like, Marilla is totally an acts of service person, So you go with the love languages. Everyone expresses love so differently. And Marilla was expressing love, even though it didn't come out in the same kind of gentle way that Matthew's did.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Foreshadowing. She does this in her Story Girl duology as well.
Yes.
When I was reading it, I was like, no, don't, no.
That one made me cry too. And
Yeah.
I wasn't even close to it as attached to those characters as I was to Matthew, and it still made me cry. Ella Montgomery writes like tough things and emotions really, really well.
Yeah.
Well, she writes everything really well. But, you know, she doesn't make it just like this happy, cheery, like moralizing Sunday school lesson kind of a thing, which is interesting because that's actually what she started out writing, was kind of like Sunday school moralizing things. But then, like, when she writes in her actual novels, there's such depth of emotion. And it's not just like everything's good and everything ends happy and perfect, like, because that's not life.
Yeah.
Mandy's worried she's gonna cry when they get to the Matthew part, and Catherine's got some advice. Use the audiobook for that chapter.
I should have done that. Regrets.
Yes, definitely read The Story Girl, The Golden Road.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, can't even remember if I have them on the list for this year. I think so.
I think you
One of
did.
them.
I
At
think
least
you
one
have
of them.
Story Girl. I
Yeah.
can't remember if you have Golden Road too. But
Who planned this? I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, any other thoughts, scenes, etc. I thought of one before. It killed me when Anne was like, I'm never going to get married. No one's going to want this girl with this red hair. Except maybe a foreign missionary. Like, you know, it's like bottom of the barrel. Maybe they'll accept me because, I don't know.
they're not even focused on worldly things.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love it.
Oh man, this is mean. Lindsay. Sam would just laugh at me when I would start crying during her read aloud.
It is mean.
Yeah.
The first book I cried reading aloud was when Claire was 4 and I was reading Charlotte's Web out loud to her. And she said to me like I was nuts. She was like, what is wrong? Why are you crying? This is a story.
Yeah.
A spider has died.
You don't even like spiders, Mom.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. That was until we listened to Red Ferns Grow and he was crying too. There we go.
There's always one that breaks that.
I haven't
There's always
read
a book, and Where the Red Fern Grows is a great one for that.
I haven't read that book. I cannot gather my courage to read it.
I haven't read it either.
It's
I've watched the
really
movie.
good. It's worth
so I know-
reading, but it will make you cry.
I know it's coming, right? Foreign missionary. Oh, what book was Anne reading with about a girl with 5 lovers? And how did Marilla not ban it?
I don't remember what book that
I
was.
don't remember.
I don't know if it said the title. And I don't know if these are like based on real books or if Maud just made some up. But I think if Marilla knew she was reading it, she would have banned it. She didn't know.
Probably. Too dramatic.
Oh,
I also
yeah. Another one.
I haven't read that either.
How does your 10-year-old not be sad by that?
This isn't sad at
What
all.
is wrong with you?
Would you have any feelings? It's good parenting, Catherine. I like it. I would do it.
Yes, it is. Still a little empathy. I was going to say I love Moody Spurgeon going to become a minister because his name is Moody Spurgeon.
Yeah.
And then Anne's writing about him in a letter to Diana, and she says, sometimes I wished I was born a boy, but when I see Moody Spurgeon, I'm always glad I'm a girl and not his sister. Just a random thing I had tabbed, but I was like, man, I love that.
I thought that was really random that she brought up not wanting to be his sister too.
Because he's that annoying. She's like, I'm so glad I don't have to be related to him.
It totally, like, his name didn't dawn on me until she pointed it out. And I was like, oh, yeah, duh.
And I never knew what that meant until this time because I didn't know who Spurgeon was the last time I read Anne of Green Gables.
And Moody, too. Moody's also a preacher. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
D.L. Moody. I think it's D.L. Moody.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Also very famous
I'll have to look into that one now.
I haven't read anything by him. I just know the name. So
Yeah. Love towards the end when Anne explained that through her mistakes she learned lessons in what they were. Yes. Oh, yeah, Old Yeller. I grew up watching that.
Mm.
She
And
asked you
Bambi.
which one was more sad after? That's torture.
Did she make you watch them back to back
So mean.
and then compare?
I feel like I was more sad in terms of reading. I was more sad about Where the Red Fern Grows. I didn't watch the movie, but I did watch Old Yeller. So
Old
I mean, it
Yeller
made me
wrecked
cry
me.
too. So Claire refuses to read them. And I was like, that's fair. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that it's not a sad book just to get you to read it.
Yeah. One before dinner and one after.
Oh,
Wow, it really was. Oh, that's
Victoria,
so sad.
I'm sorry you were traumatized as an 8-year-old.
That was an emotional
my
day.
gosh. I thought she just asked you in general after you'd seen them both like at different times, like not the same day, and then like which one's sadder.
At
You
least
have a
Old Yeller
bucket to collect your tears to see which one had more tears. Like, my gosh. Oh, does it? I didn't realize
I
that.
don't remember that it does, but
I haven't read that.
Golden Fox I haven't read. But I remember
Oh yeah, that my daughter was really mad at me when I had her read that book.
I haven't even heard of that one.
What we watched like The Fox and the Hound
Mm.
when my brother was little, and he's like, stupid movie, I'm never gonna watch this again. Trying so hard not to cry. Oh yeah.
That one's not as bad, at least. I mean, it's still bittersweet,
Yeah,
but they're alive.
Yeah, exactly.
that's true.
Die.
Okay, I got another funny quote that has nothing to do with anything at all.
No, that's good. That's good.
It's I think it's Rachel Lynde. It's Rachel Lynde talking in the last chapter about Anne becoming the school teacher in Avonlea. And she says that she'll get along all right because now there's no more pies because Joseph's the last one. And she says there's been some pie or other going to Avonlea School for the last 20 years. And I guess their mission in life was to keep school teachers reminded that Earth is not their home. Just like, wow, Rachel, tell us how you really feel.
That is so funny.
We all know her, Rachel Lynde.
Yeah. It was funny.
That's such a perfect way to put it too. Just her talent with words.
I know it. I know it.
One of the sections I had underlined was when Anne was talking about Mrs. Allen. I never knew before that religion was such a cheerful thing. I always thought it was kind of melancholy, but Mrs. Allen's isn't, and I'd like to be a Christian if I could be one like her.
Mm-hmm.
That one really hit home. It's like, okay, how am I living my life? What kind of Christian am I conveying that I am?
I love that. I am a pastor's wife currently, but I was a pastor's daughter. And I remember my dad getting up on Sunday mornings being like, I look out at you guys singing about the joy of the Lord and you look like you're the most miserable people. And it's like, if you have the joy of the Lord, shouldn't you show it? Shouldn't you be happier than other people? And that hit me as a child to be like, wow, yeah, no, we shouldn't be miserable.
Yeah.
I had so many things I highlighted. Most of them are like the iconic lines,
Yeah.
But
I found that, as a child reading it, I learned a lot from it. But I feel like that the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten out of the book as well.
yeah.
And even after how many times I've read it, this time there was one part, it's in chapter 22, but when she was so nervous about going to tea with Mrs. Allen. And when Marilla says to her, the trouble with you, Anne, is you're thinking too much about yourself. You should just think of Mrs. Allen and what would be nicest and most agreeable for her. That really stuck out to me because I think I get that way where I get so self-conscious about everything when I'm going somewhere, and that made me just stop and think, okay, when I'm getting self-conscious, I'm thinking too much about myself instead of what I can do for others.
Yeah.
Yeah, that line hit me too.
I love it. Something else I love about this book in general, just as a general statement, is so many people say that it's a book that you should read in the fall because of that one quote about being happy to live in a world where there are Octobers.
Mhm.
But this is a book that is like spans like so many seasons.
Yeah.
And
Over
that's
and over
something
again.
I love about it. Every single Ella Montgomery book I've read is not just set in one season. So we
Mhm.
get all this beautiful atmospheric nature writing for every single season. So honestly, there's never a bad time to read Anne.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally true. My edition of Anne of Avonlea makes me think of fall just because it is very autumnally colored.
Yeah.
But once again, it spans, I don't know how long.
Does that
Probably.
one open in fall? Because Anne of Green Gables opens in summer, and it's definitely a summery cover. So I wonder if Anne of Avonlea opens in the fall.
This is August,
Okay, well,
but
in Canada, yeah, that's fall.
Mine has a springish cover.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
That one is Green Gables, or which one?
Yeah.
Yeah, my Green Gables is more like springy looking. But
Pretty. I have the same one as you, Chantal. So
nice. I love
I
it.
bought them because you had them and you talked about them in a haul, and I'm like, I gotta hunt those down. I still have 2 more to get, but I've got 6 of the 8 in that edition.
I
This
wanted
one,
those for a really long time, but then this year I just decided to get these ones instead.
Those ones are so pretty too. I love all the different editions. It's fun to see them.
this one was a used one, and it's got like the lady's address, and it's got her little Christmas tag here from her kids and stuff,
Oh.
and it keeps falling out, and I'm like, I want it to stay in here.
I love that.
But I also want to kind of go to her address and be like, why did you get rid of this book? You need it on your shelf.
Yeah.
I started this year putting date stamps of when I started and finished books and writing just like a really brief review. And I'm like, if I ever get rid of these books or they get passed on to someone else, they'll get to see what I thought, which is kind of fun because I love doing that. I love getting a book that has, like you said, you're keeping the tag in there. Like I do the same thing. If someone had something they were using as a bookmark, I keep it in there. Because it's just fun to see what other people thought or felt. Or sometimes I wonder with bookmarks, though, I'm like, did you stop here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it not good enough?
Yeah, I wonder.
I got we were talking about Marilla of Green Gables, but there's also the Caroline one for the mother from Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
So when I bought that book used, it had someone had gifted it to their mother. She read it and wrote a sentence or two, and then she passed it on to her kids, and they each read it and wrote a sentence or two.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, I need to do this for books. But then I'm like, well, I read so many books. I can't do this for every single book. But it's really cool.
Last year, I did a couple traveling books, some with in-person friends and some with people that I mailed it to. And so we all took notes and underlined things in different colored pens. So then we
Ooh,
got to
that's fun.
see everyone's thoughts, and then we each wrote like a review in the back.
That's
It
cool.
was really fun.
That would be the most fun when you're the last person to get it.
Yeah, well, I own one of the books and it's about to come back to me, so I'll get to keep it and look at everyone's notes. But the other person was my friend's, so when the last person returned it, I was like, I want to look through that and see, because it was a really terrible book, and almost all of us hated it. So it was really funny to see everyone's notes. It's hilarious.
I find with annotations, it's kind of more fun to annotate if I don't like the book. If I want to yell a little bit.
You kind of mock it in the margins. That's what we did.
Victoria asked what editions everyone's reading. So if you guys want to chime in.
I have the same as Chantel, the Tundra edition.
Tundra ones I think can be hard to find. But sometimes Book Outlet has had them.
That's where I got all of mine, was from Book Outlet, depending on which ones were in stock. And I also have the Blue Castle edition, the Tundra edition of that one too.
Yeah, I got all of the ones that they printed in the Tundra editions, but they did they did Mistress Pat, which is book 2, but they didn't do book 1.
Oh.
That's weird. Why would you not just do the first one if you're only going to do one?
Yeah, exactly.
That's odd. Is that the more popular one, maybe? But why would the second one be more popular?
I don't think either of them are popular.
Well, I didn't think so either. But if you're gonna like, maybe I don't know.
I don't know. It's
Just
very
trying
strange.
to figure this out.
Yeah.
Oh, got another snarky annotator in Anne.
I need a traveling book with Anne. I would love to see Anne's snarky notes on things because I love when Anne doesn't like something.
Yeah, I gotta send her a book that I love and then see what she puts in it.
Should send her
yeah.
that Marilla book.
Yeah, there we go.
You guys can
Yeah.
swap your notes.
Okay, tell me
That'd
what
be
you...
interesting. Yeah. The Puffin and Bloom. That's a really good version too.
So pretty. I wish they had done the whole series in that.
Was that the one that's the green things on the cover?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I got that and I was gonna get the whole series in it and then realized that they didn't do 2 of them, so that's why I got.
Mm-hmm.
No, Puffin and Bloom is only Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Um,
Then I was
Yeah, they
thinking...
also did like Heidi and they did Little Women, but not the sequels to Little Women either.
and The Secret Garden. No, A Little Princess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have all 4 of those. They just did the 4 books.
They're pretty. They really are.
1994 Wordsworth version. Cool.
Huh.
I have like 8 or 9 copies of Anne of Green Gables.
I do too.
I've got like 3.
Kind of crazy.
Gave Venice a biography of Jane Austen for high school research paper and all kinds of snarky notes in the margins.
That's so funny.
Very fun. Oh yeah, the 100th anniversary edition. I have that too.
Oh, how pretty. I don't
Is that this one?
Yep.
Do you care to take that down, Cheryl, and bring it a little closer? Because I want to see what it looks like.
Is this
You don't mind?
like the original cover kind of?
Oh, it's pretty.
Mine's a little different. Mine's a hardcover without the bottom border.
Yeah, this is the Seawolf Press. I love their books because they always do them with the original cover. And
That's
then
cool.
if there's illustrations in them, they're the original illustrations.
Oh, wow.
The font isn't always very fun to look at, but I think it's because it's whatever was printed in originally.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've got the
Nice.
got the old edition
Oh,
illustrations.
full.
Yeah.
Charlene got me the I don't know what edition it is, and it's downstairs, so I can't show it to you, but it has like when certain things come up, if there was a note or there's the Lord's Prayer, it has an envelope with a nicely printed Lord's Prayer, or
that's cool.
a cool little envelope with a letter in it, or
Is it the Marjolaine Baston version? Did she do a version of that? Because I have like Little Women in that and Pride and Prejudice, and it has like all the letters, and it's got like an instruction on dancing. It's got a map in it, a letter.
Wow.
Yes, I think so. I think there's other versions.
An and one. That must be newer.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I
need that.
And then like the red currant wine recipe with the other thing on the other side, which I'm totally blanking.
The raspberry cordial?
Yeah. That's on the other side. Yeah.
I got an Anne cookbook a couple years ago that had a recipe for raspberry cordial. That was fun.
I made the one from the Anne of Green Gables cookbook, but I did not do it very well. It did not taste the way Prince Edward Island raspberry cordial tasted.
I've never had it to compare, but I made it also from the same cookbook.
Okay. But it was probably me.
Well, any other last thoughts on the book or Anne that you want to share? We could stay here all night and I could read all of my highlights.
Yeah, I'm like, which thing do I...
You should do a video, Chantel, where you like read all your annotations. It would be like a 3-hour long video, but it would be really fun to see everything that you enjoyed.
When Marilla takes her to Mrs. Blewett Mrs. whoever it was that originally brought Anne over, and then they see Mrs. Blewett.
Mm-hmm.
And Mrs. Blewett's like eyeing up Anne. And I'm like, she scares me a little.
Yeah. I feel like one of you talked about this or somebody else did. I don't remember, but I feel like I saw it on Instagram. But it was something that when she says Marilla loved the girl as much as she had loved the child, but she was conscious of a queer, sorrowful sense of loss.
I posted that on Instagram yesterday, trying not to cry at piano.
That's what I thought. I was like, I'm pretty sure that was you, because that's how I feel right now. With my daughters are 15 and 19 now, and I think they get tired of me talking about when they were little. But I could relate so much to that in Marilla.
Mine's only 12, but I'm already like preparing my heart, so I can only imagine how you must feel.
These last
having
few
graduated
years,
one,
they've gone so fast and out of nowhere. Like I felt like I had so much time, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bittersweet, the parenting journey, because it's also awesome to see who they become and how they grow. But
okay, these are the versions that they have of that edition.
Okay.
With the different stuff in them.
If it's the Marjolaine Baston one, they also have Sense and Sensibility, Emma, and Jane Eyre, but I don't know if that's what it is or not because I haven't looked it up yet.
I'm going to have to look these up.
But if it's the one I'm thinking of. But there could be more than one edition that has stuff tucked in there, so I don't know. Does it have like a pretty floral design on the cover?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure it out here. I don't remember what it's called.
I'm curious.
Who's it by here? This is curated by Barbara Heller.
Okay, so it's different.
Complete novel featuring the characters' letters, mementos, written and folded by hand.
Okay. That's different than the edition that I have then.
Pretty cool. Oh, Catherine wants to see a video of my Nicholas Nickleby annotations. There's a lot of snark there.
As much or less than Pickwick Papers? Just curious.
See, I didn't annotate Pickwick Papers.
You should have.
I tabbed it. Actually, I have it right here. I think I wasn't as smart last year. I didn't catch a lot of stuff, or I was just kind of annoyed. But Nicholas Nickleby, I'm allowed to take out my annoyance on the book. But to
be fair, I was annoyed by Pickwick Papers quite a few times, and I like Dickens a lot. Pickwick Papers is my least favorite Dickens I've read. So
okay. Well, and lots of people say they really enjoy Nicholas Nickleby, and I'm not sure enjoy in what do they mean by that, but
it's Dia's favorite Dickens.
Oh.
I read it the year before last, or I would have joined you again in January. But I read it the year before last, and I'm not ready to reread it. I liked it. I didn't love it. So
I haven't read either of these yet. So with it, Chantel, are you the snark? Is it because you don't like the book, or you just don't like what's happening in the book?
Usually it's what's happening. Overall, I'm enjoying it. It's probably higher on the list compared to some of the other Dickens I've read. Maybe middle of the road-ish. I think Oliver Twist and A Christmas Carol would win out, but higher than A Tale of Two Cities and The Pickwick Papers and Great Expectations, which I've never finished, but I've started a few times. So, but it's just, he writes really negative characters. There's these two brothers that I'm finally at who are super nice people. And I'm like, oh, they're the nicest people since this book has started. Everyone is just terrible, and I feel a little bit unrealistic for the time. Yes, there was people like that, but not as many as he portrays, I think. I don't know.
Well, he's trying to portray societal injustices most of the time. So that's why you have so many. But I mean, it's a good writer that can make you really hate people too.
Yeah.
He's got some despicable characters in that one.
Have I got to the vegetable throwing part yet? I don't think so.
That sounds interesting.
Was that in the school, or was it after that? I'm trying to remember. Because I'm I don't remember when that is.
Well, if it was in the school, then I already read that.
It doesn't stick with me very strongly. So
I'm over halfway. That's also downstairs. Getting close to the 3/4 mark, I think. have we read Pamela by Samuel
No.
Richardson?
I'm too scared, Anne. I'm too scared to read Pamela. It's so
Especially
long.
seeing the discussion involving that book online right now.
Oh, really? I didn't know there was discussion
I
online.
think
right
it
now.
was Anne and some other people that were talking about it. It sounds pretty intense.
Maybe I'm
Did
thinking of a different book. I'm thinking of one that was super long. Oh, I'm thinking of Clarissa, which is so long. It's like 1,400 pages long or something.
Ooh.
But I know I bought a copy of Pamela, and I got rid of it when I found out what it was about. So, because it doesn't sound good to me, I'm like, I'm gonna hate this, so I didn't keep it.
The vegetable throwing has to do with Nicholas Nicklby's mother. So
Huh.
no, I don't think I've read that yet.
I don't even remember that.
And she just read Pamela. So you need to trade annotations with Anne.
Whew. Mm.
Oh, on Discord.
Yeah, that's where it was.
I need to hop over in that Discord. I get so behind on Discord. That's all I can do to keep up with my own most of the time.
Yeah,
So I need to hop over there.
I don't even have the Discord app just because I can only do so many things.
Yep, it's fair.
Yeah. Oh, and we forgot. I didn't talk about Miss Stacy and how much I loved her.
Oh, I love Miss Stacy.
That just popped into my mind of like just wanting to be a teacher more like her.
Yeah.
And not like the other guy.
Yeah.
Oh, in the movie though, whatever the first teacher, I can't remember his name. Oh, he is done so well.
Yeah.
Like, I just do not like him.
Yeah.
Like reading that in modern day is like I know that people are making fun of him in the book, but I'm like, modern day we would be like, this is beyond inappropriate.
Yeah.
Like,
But at the
you
same
need to
time,
be fired.
at the same time, he's probably only like a year or two older.
Yeah.
Probably.
You know, like
Yeah, when we look at when they're becoming teachers at 16, 17. So he was probably 17 or 18 or something.
That's true. That does make it a little better, doesn't it?
well, even like so Diana is going to continue at school at 16.
Yeah.
And Anne is going to teach
Yeah.
at 16. So like you have the same age as your students.
It still feels icky though, I think,
Yes,
too, because
totally.
of the power thing of teacher student,
Yes.
even if they're
The
the
power
same
dynamic.
age. But yeah, it probably was more normal back then.
I just feel like in the movie
I don't know.
he's done so well. Like he just gives me the shivers.
Yeah, me too.
And he's a dork. Like, you're like, why is she impressed by him?
Yeah, totally.
Who would want that?
I noticed in the movie too, Miss Stacy was in the movie more than in the book.
Yes.
Yes, she was. They gave her more
Because
screen time than Matthew.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think they kind of were combining her and Mrs. Allen.
Yeah. Because of the scene with when she's invited over for a meal and stuff.
Yeah, like they changed the liniment cake to the mouse story that nobody was there for, and then have it be Miss Stacy instead of Mrs. Allen. I loved that scene too, with Mrs. Allen coming up to her room to comfort her. I thought that was so sweet.
Yes, I love Mrs. Allen. I'm so glad that Anne had she had so many, yes, she had Marilla and she had Matthew, but she had other figures in the community that were basically also kind of parent figures to her.
Yeah.
Like it's very much a takes a village to raise this child. There's so many people that are invested in and love Anne. And I love that.
Yeah.
Esther's wondering what movie version.
The Megan Follows one.
Yeah.
Megan Follows, the Sullivan Productions from the 80s.
It's really the only one.
Although I like the first one. I like the second one.
Not the third one.
I didn't like the third one just because it went off book so much, and I hated the prequel.
I didn't know there was a prequel.
They made one, but they had her dad die at the beginning because he rode the carriage off the road because he was drunk.
Oh.
And I was like, that's not how her dad died.
Yeah.
It was surprising to me that the same people made that one that made the first two Anne movies and Road to Avonlea.
Yeah, I had never even heard of the prequel, so that one's pretty well buried.
Yeah.
Other people don't want to remember that either, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even finish it. After that happened, I turned it off.
I don't blame you. It's too far.
Yeah. But yeah, the first Sullivan Productions one and the second. But yeah, then the third one just goes very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think the movie was bad. I liked it if I didn't have a book, but
Yeah.
I just wish they would have done Rilla of Ingleside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They could still do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They could even use Megan Follows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, couldn't use Jonathan Crombie though.
No.
No. Well, he could just be out delivering babies.
Yeah, there you go.
Every scene. I miss
mean,
Dad. He's been real busy.
He just left.
Yeah. Just get like some actor just to do the like from behind leaving the room.
That would be kind of
Have
funny.
you guys seen the pictures of like what the cast is doing these days and what they look like these days?
I have not. No.
Well, I met Megan Follows.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah, not last year or the year before, in 2023, I met her.
That's amazing.
Where? What? Where did one meet?
In Salt Lake City, here in Utah, they do a thing called FanX that it's kind of like Comic-Con, and she came to it.
Whoa.
How cool.
Yeah, I was afraid I was going to start crying, but I didn't.
Way to go, Cheryl.
I was like, this is so stupid. I'm a 40-year-old. Yeah, I'm like, no, I can't cry.
I just thought it was on the official Anne of Green Gables Instagram, and Diana, that one, I was like, what? She looks so different. And let's see if I can find it here.
You should screen share it if you can find it on your computer.
I don't know how often do they share stuff here. I'm gonna have to scroll quite a ways. Yeah, probably won't find it now.
If you find it, you should share it on your Instagram so everyone who's here tonight can see it.
Yeah. I'll have to do that. Because yeah, it was interesting to see how different she looks.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought she looked different in the third movie, but she looked so pretty, I thought, but I haven't seen her in anything since then.
She's a like online yoga teacher or something like that.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who would have thought, Diana?
Yeah, with her little dimples that Anne was so jealous of. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, thanks, ladies, and everyone else for joining in tonight.
Yes, thank you for hosting. This was wonderful.
Yeah, it was really fun.
My plan is to do Anne of Avonlea on the 25th of February. Same time. 25th? Yeah, I think that's a Tuesday as well. So whoever wants to join in then, that'd be great. Hopefully that book is just as good.
That's actually my daughter's favorite in the entire series.
Oh, wow.
Because she loves Davy
so
much. Who did not make it into any of the movies, Dora and Davy. So.
They're on Road to Avonlea, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never watched that, so.
Road to Avonlea is really great. That's what I grew up watching.
Oh, fun.
So, yeah, have a great night.
All right, you too.
We'll be back next month, or some of us at least.